A warm welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. Today we're going to talk about the subject of protecting your car. So the paintwork on this car is looking amazing. Like, it is that mirror kind of finish at the moment. So it's all been polished. You know, it's just looking fantastic. And what I want to do now is protect it. And you have a lot of choices out there on the market, don't you? You have like all the way through from like PPF to ceramic coatings, to lightweight ceramics, to sealants, to paste waxes, to spray waxes, to liquid spray sealants, a whole smorgasbord of options. And we've been focusing a lot on paste waxes recently and how good fun they are to kind of apply and enjoy. So I thought I'd go through my thought process about what I'm going to be putting down on this car after it's protected. Now, the first thing, I haven't panel wiped this after polishing it because I don't want to mess with the finish. But we know that if you're putting down a sealant or a ceramic coating to maximise the durability, a bare prepped panel with no polishing oils is going to give you better durability. And I probably go along with that, although we've done some tests which perhaps show that it's less of a factor than you might think, and I'd like to explore that a little bit more. But for me, because this car is primarily garaged, I'm less worried about extending the durability, and I'm more worried about not messing up the finish. So out of all of the options I've got here, I may well put a paste wax on it later for fun, you know, on top of something else, but I'm looking for a sort of base mechanical sealant, if you like. Cancoat might be a good option on paper, but I tend not to go down the ceramic coating route because they're a little bit too permanent. And this new Cancoat Evo, I think, don't quote me on that, I think it can do 12 to 18 months, isn't it? Is it 12 to 18 months? I don't know. But it might be a little bit too durable for me because I'm probably going to be polishing this again or shining it up later on, which is something we'll talk about. So I would be perhaps more down the line of a baseline sealant here of one of these that's not so durable, you know, and is probably going to be like a 3 to 6 month product. And then what I would do is when my finish isn't good, it's less about, for me, it's less about when the beading goes or I feel like the protection isn't maximised, topping up. It's more like when I don't have the finish that I want on the car, I'll tend to buzz over it with Blackhole, which will sort out all my problems with the finish, get me back to this, and then I could leave the Blackhole or just quickly spray something over the top, again, without degreasing or de-waxing or whatever. You wouldn't. So I tend to go for stuff which isn't the maximum durability. So really, with these products here, if I was looking for maximum durability, probably the SiRamiks would be the one to put down, you know, to give you, you know, that'll get you through the winter, and that's really kind of like a solvent-based liquid sealant, if you like, and I'm not really looking for that. But that's probably going to go off before I get a chance to use it. The Seal and Shine would be a really good candidate, and it's something I'll always have because it's very affordable and it's just a really durable spray sealant for not a lot of money. But really, I boiled it down to these two here. The Jesscar Ultralock Plus is a ceramic polymer sealant with ceramic protection, like ceramic polymer. It's not like a ceramic coating technology. This is like putting out almost like a liquid wax, you know, like a sort of slimy emulsion, but that dries to a haze, and you buff it, and it buffs really smooth and buffs really nice and buffs really clean without any kind of greasy marks or anything. So that would be a great option. I could also, a bit like with Blackhole, I could also put this on a machine polishing pad and just whiz over this every time I wanted to reseal the car, but also reset the finish just with that machine application. The abrasive effect of both these two products gets me back to a shiny reset panel, but they're not sort of like bespoke abrasives that are there to correct swirls. But I think in this particular scenario, the Collinite Beadcoat suits me best because it's so easy to apply. It's so forgiving. I could spray it over there and just spread it and leave it, and it will melt into the panel with no buff. With some spray sealants, if you do that without sort of leveling them with a buff, in certain lights you'll see the film isn't kind of properly applied. But this is so forgiving. I don't think you're ever going to get that with it. Also, when applying this, it's water-based, so it's not going to, it's not going to thin out the polishing oils or do anything like any of these solvent-based ones might. So they might be, the solvent-based ones, when you put them on the polishing oil, might not be ideal. I don't know. But this water-based one isn't going to, it's just going to go on easily. It also beads like crazy, and it will probably last. It will last probably, if I don't mess around, like probably up to 6 months, because the car's garage, that makes a huge difference. But it will bead. If I ever go out in the summer or spring and it pours with rain, the car just sheds the water, which is really, I find really nice. So I've just got a clean microfiber block applicator here, which is a good way to apply it. I could just dampen that off a little bit. So it's got a little mist on it, so it's not like a dry application. And I'm not following, whenever I review these, I try to follow the product instructions, but this isn't a review. This is just bringing you into what I'm doing. So you might, someone could argue you shouldn't do that if it doesn't say it on the instructions. But now for me, this kind of applicator is ready to go for the whole car. And I could just simply spritz on one squirt there, take the block, and it's just, this is why it's just so rapid, isn't it? It's even easier, like it's 10 times more rapid doing this than a paste wax, because it's just like spreading under low pressure a thin film. Sorry if that's, if I didn't get that all. A thin film of water over your paintwork. So if I just stick to this top half of this panel, so I've just done the rear quarter there, and we could do it even quicker. And you could probably do it even thorough. My priority is not to pressure into that panel in case there's a little bit of dust or something like that. And then you just take that clean microfiber cloth and just buff that gently. And that's it really. I'm just ensuring. The good thing about this, if this was a paste wax, I would have to make sure that I don't just put the microfiber over it. I actually kind of buff it and keep going and get the light on it to make sure there's no greasy marks. With that, you just wipe the cloth over the top of it to pick up any excess product, and that's it. I haven't got to worry about the edges ever sort of like having weird marks or anything like that. That's just so, it's just so rapid and easy to apply. And then all you've got to do now is just like one little squirt there, You can put the squirt on the panel if you want and just get that wet film of product. Yeah, it leaves that little haze, doesn't it, as you apply it. I haven't got to worry about the trims. I've got to worry about nothing. Look, and in terms of cost, you can see how hardly any product will do like an entire car. You could literally probably go around the car with one squirt. As long as I'm getting that wet haze there, that is a mixture of water and whatever active ingredients are in this product. And I'll just take a dry side to this cloth. I don't need to re-prime that cloth. If you get that cloth too wet, then you're going to have that water trail, which is not really what you want. You just want that thin haze of product. But anyway, it's fine. Look, it doesn't make any difference. You just wipe the cloth over it and you get your finish. If you do, as your cloth picks up, you get that little bit of haze, that will just melt back into the panel. So that cloth's not bone dry everywhere. So, yeah. So it's just leveling it really. That little haze will just disappear. See, as you level it, there it goes. That's what I like about this bead coat. It's so forgiving to use. And this black paint, once you just take off that excess and you just level that film down a little bit. See, there's some of the film. If you just wipe over it, you just thin the film down and it just vapes off. It's so quick. It is literally like a detail spray. It's so easy to apply, which is, you do all this work on your car and you get that finish to where you want it. You don't want to risk that finish. So yeah, that's really, it's just lovely to work with. So you get the idea. It wouldn't be, like I said before, it wouldn't be the end of the world. There's no right or wrong with any of this. What I can say is it's less about how good the protection is on paper. I think for me is a personal choice. For other people, it's not. For other people, the beading and the durability might be really, really important. For me, the ease of the buff, the guarantee of the buff is probably more important than the finish, than the durability. I don't know. What do you think about that? But I will have an urge this summer to put like a really nice show wax on it, like the Swiss Wax or something like that. But there's a place for all of these kind of products. You know, I've spent loads of money on my waxes and I intend to use them all. But these, you know, I don't need duplicates of everything really, and this would last. These two products I have to have. These are all nice to have. Yeah, I probably don't have to have this, but I really like that as well. I probably wouldn't want to be without that. But essentially, these two products, if I had to have only two, might be all I actually need. This, like I said before, it's just so good. If you've got a black car and you know you've got a black car that's nice, and you've got a garage and you've got lighting and stuff, and you look at all this stuff, then you'll really appreciate how useful Poorboys Blackhole is. And you'll really appreciate something like this bead coat, because it's just so easy to use. It really is just so easy. Yeah. You want to try and get all your panel when you do this as well, so that everything's protected. It's not the end of the world if you don't know. You know, there's like bits underneath this panel and like along this leading edge. It's not the end of the world, but you want to try and get it all. It's the name of the game, isn't it? If you polished it, then you probably want to protect it. But yeah, someone made the point that the more you're contacting your paintwork, the more is that risk of scratching, which is actually absolutely true, yeah. But you can only kind of minimise that risk, can't you? If I'm not pushing this applicator down into the panel too hard, or I'm buffing gently, then my chance of scratching that paint is reduced. And that's good enough for me. That's good enough. Let's just try and get that under there so I get protection all along there. So that's that top part of the boot lid. What do I do with the cloth? Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's the most important thing, is that if you get the heavy light on this as well, you don't then suddenly see there is a little thin scratch there, but I'm not going to take that out. The paint is good enough. You can't get, it can never be 100% flawless. You just want to keep it nice and shiny and swirl free generally, but don't try and keep it ever 100% scratch free, because you will fail. Because every time you make contact with it, you're probably at some level putting a scratch in. You're going to see it on black. But yeah, this is just such an easy way to protect your car. Is this as glossy as like a paste wax, you know, for example? Well, with this level of base gloss that we've got on the panel, it won't matter from a gloss perspective. Like the Gonio photometer reading won't be any higher with a wax or lower. But a wax, there is something about a fresh waxed look that is hard to beat. But yeah, you've got to spend more time if you're using a paste wax, especially with the buff. So once you've applied your paste wax and you've buffed it once, you probably want to get a good light source out, a clean cloth, and just go over and buff on it again to make sure you've not got any little greasy marks or excess kind of product anywhere, so you get that greasy hologram. Once this bead coat starts to vape out and dry, it also becomes very slick, which is what I like on the paintwork. So that I'm just literally, there's no pressure, my hand's just like floating over this. So let's make sure we get that leading edge there. Yeah, and it's just a really good spray sealant, I think, the Collinite Beadcoat. It does everything. It does everything. It'd be nice if it was like as cheap as the Seal and Shine, because you can get 5 litres of the Seal and Shine for 22 quid at the moment in the UK, and it's probably more durable than the bead coat. there's very little difference. The bead coat will just bead a bit more. But I think the bead coat is a slightly better product for a lot more money, essentially. And because I've got the bead coat, you know, I'd be silly not to use it. But maybe, like as I've said before, when the bead coat runs out, I'd be silly to go and buy more when I've got that there that essentially does the same thing. When I've used them both up, on paper, I'd be silly to buy the bead coat. When the price of that is like £22.99 for 5 litres. The problem is, like some of you have said, even if you're a professional and you're doing this day in, day out, and ploughing through that material, and that price difference does make a big difference. If you're not, then that bottle of ceramic sealant realistically is probably going to last you a couple of years at least, because you're just using, you know, you're using hardly any per application. You could, you know, so it's probably gonna, that bottle, you won't have used it all within 2 years or 3 years. And most siloxane, most cationic siloxane, if you ever get the raw material, has a shelf life of typically 12 to 24 months when you get that material from this thing and from a supplier. But it will still work after 24 months, but it could spoil, or it might not be as potent. It might lose a bit of its durability. So realistically, you want to try and use all of this product, which is hard. And that does make the price less of a factor. But when you're comparing them for a test, you really just have to get stuck in and compare the price, don't you? And if something's a bargain, it's a bargain. It should be rewarded for giving you that kind of value. But yeah, bead coat isn't really cheap, which is, you know, I usually like it when it's cheap. So there, we've just applied that to that top part of the door. Our applicator's still loaded up, so we can just carry on. As long as we're getting a film of this product, this material, we're going to be fine. Like I say, the durability is, maxing it out is less of an issue. John, what about applying 2 coats? Yeah, you could do. I just think, again, you'd do that if you were looking to maximise durability. And I'm not. I know eventually I'll have some little soap spots or water spots, or something will happen to this car that will just, I'll get my little black hole urge to buff on it with the black hole, to reset it. Just give me that like showroom kind of finish. Just working little gentle squares there, make sure I've got the seal. I'm not going to go under that seal because it's just, the paint under there is all not great. Let's make sure we got that. Yes, this is just nice, and I find this nice and relaxing to do. Holding the camera is a bit of a pain. I'll do this section here as well. This is all the fresh paint. There's another thing actually with this paint's been on the car now for a couple of weeks or over 10 days. This water-based product is also going to be fine to put on the paint. It's not going to, some of you are going to say, well, you've got to give it 2 months to like gas out. Not really. When it's in the body shop and they finish out the paint, they'll cut it. They'll leave the polishing oil in there, and they'll sometimes put like a 3M kind of polish wax to finish it off, you know, like a finishing wax, and they'll do that pretty much the next day after it's been painted. Even with the solvent-based clear coat, yeah, it's fine. So I won't have any problems with this. And it's the same paint shop, same paint, same clear coat that we used on this. They did a really good job with this car, actually. There's tiny imperfections on any paint job. That had to be epoxy primered, and you do always get some blistering. We're about 4 years ago this was painted, and if you look really, you'd think I was being really fussy. You won't even be able to see it on camera. There is some tiny micro blistering somewhere, But the fact you can't even see it. If I got some light on this, oh there you go. See right there, some little tiny micro blistering. That will get worse over time, but unfortunately with those plastic wings, that's very common. Apart from that, they did a bloody good job, and even that's beyond their control, really. Yeah, really good paint on this car, especially considering it wasn't an expensive respray, but it's also retained its gloss, which is nice. What's going on up there? Oh, I've got a bit of a tape line there, so I just need to gently keep buffing on that. That tape line's way off the edge. I've put the tape on very accurately. Or is that something else? I can't have taped that far back. There we go. Oh, I tell you what, that's probably where the tape sat, and then I pulled it off and then realigned it, and it's just created a little tape line. Right. I'll get some light on this when I've finished as well, just to make sure. But I love the fact you just literally level it. No sort of like having to buff that material up. I think Beadcoat has to be one of the most forgiving, has to be probably the most forgiving product I think I've ever used. Oh, I need to get a dry towel. It's wet now, so I'll just pop that in there. Yeah, when your towel becomes an applicator, it's time to change. It should just be nice and slidey and smooth. I can't remember if I've done this bit. You tell me. So there you get the idea, guys. So I've done, oh, I need to buff that. See, where I haven't even buffed this, where it's just vaped in. You'd never know. So like the buff isn't that important, really, which is what I love. But you should just gently go over it to make sure you haven't put like a big thick slice of it on somewhere. So really, that's applied, that's applied, that's all applied, and the roof's all applied, and the top of the bonnet's applied. So what I'll do now is go and do the rear section and then all the other side, and then pop up the garage and do the front bonnet. And yeah, and I will leave that car in here, and I'll just let that, you know, I could drive the car, it wouldn't make any difference, but I'll just leave it because I've got the other car. And I don't think can't see me getting this car out again in the summer. Just too worried it would get damaged. Oh, it's due an MOT soon though, so it's going to have to come out. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, that'd be a big anxiety. So yeah, I'll carry on, guys. So what do you feel about this? If you were in this situation, or even if you're not, what do you do for your situation that's best? I've looked at, you know, I've used so many products over the years, so many. And the thing I've come to realise really is it wouldn't make much difference at all if this was a different glaze. There could be some other glazes out there that are really good, but I use this because it just gets me the finish, as I've said. It's not, I don't use it because it might be the best filling glaze. I doubt it fills as well as the Auto Glim or the Built Hamber. They probably fill better, you know, fill, F-I-L-L. It's mainly the buff and how well it guarantees me with the least amount of effort to get me the finish on the car that I want. And you can just leave this like on its own and it will last like a couple of months. You know, it's got wax in it or whatever. Really good. And again, the same with the bead coat. I could replace the bead coat with a whole number of water-based spray sealants. They'd probably all do a similar thing. But the reason is, I think that is the ease of use for me. It is just so idiot-proof, and it does never, on black paint, it never lets me down. I never come back later on in a day's time and I think I'll see a little bit there and think, oh, yeah, I've not applied that properly. See, I've left a little bit. Or I take it out in the sunlight where you really kind of shows you everything. And it's like, oh, look, I've got a greasy mark down there. But it's never with that bead coat. It's just like you apply it. Even if you don't buff a bit, it will melt into the panel and you won't see the film. Some spray sealants, like some of you guys say, I like that, the terminology. In the right light, it looks like you put a map of the Himalayas on your paintwork. You can get that with some of them, so you do have to be careful. You don't get that with this. You get a lovely uniform film that just melts back into the panel. Yeah, and the bonus is it beads like crazy. The bonus is it is slick, but it's not market leading slick. It slickens off is the way I describe it, but it's not a really slick buff or anything like that. You need that dry cloth. You need it to start melting into the panel before it slickens up. It's got all the tech. So if you're into your tech, you've got SiO2 and graphene, whatever the hell that does, whatever the hell it means. But it's got it. So it's a high-tech, very easy to apply product. Yeah. Okay, let me know your combo. Would you do it differently? Would you say, John, I'm going to you got to put that Swiss wax on. Part of me would love to put that wax on right now and just spend that time, get a thicker, denser cloth and do that final buff out with that. That would look awesome. Part of me would love to experiment with the SiRamiks because I applied that to one of Dan's Porsches and it's probably still going strong. Last time I saw it, it was still going strong, and it was on the bonnet of my Golf, and it's got really good real world durability. That you'll probably, I don't know if you'll get a year out of it, but you should get like 6 to 9 months out of it. It will obviously be sheeting by then, not beading, but it will still be there. So yeah, pretty good. That's it on this one, guys. So sealant wax, ceramic, spray sealant, spray wax, synthetic, whatever. What is your requirement? That's what you got to think about it. You might say, I don't care if it's a bit more difficult to apply. I don't want a ceramic. I want the maximum durability that you can get in a non-ceramic. I want the maximum beading. Well, that might be a Fuso coat job topped with BSD. But if you might say, I want the cheapest because I don't really care. Just give me a cheap spray wax. You won't beat the price of that. 5 litres, 22 quid. You're there. You're done. And no one's going to ever compete with that. Brands won't want to compete with that sort of price because they'll want you to pay 22 quid for that. Remember, most of that's water. And there's a small amount of active ingredient, if you like. So the profit margins on these are good. But when you're getting 5 litre for 22 quid, none of those brands are going to want to sell it to you at that price. There's no money in it. Only the big brands can do that. There we go. Over and out. Good.